with a job or with a relationship, or if you are a writer and you're experiencing writer's block, there are different examples. And because I'm a coach, each section includes some probing questions to help you get started writing in that style that I actually and so I encourage you, this is something that you would be interested in, or you may know people who would benefit from writing out there, allowing their voices to be heard. There are many different examples of how we do that. And you don't have to be a brilliant writer to do this. It is really a form of self-expression, and it is more prose than free-flowing. The last piece that I want to read in my time is a piece that is very brief, more of an encouragement piece, because hope and encouragement are things that I spend a lot of time on. And this piece, I think, marries well with one of the reasons why we're here. I mean, it really is lifelong learning, and the pursuit of happiness I love very much what Ken Burns and Jeffrey Rosen talk about, because I think that it really does really summarize kind of the experience that we have here at Chautauqua. And so as we go forward and continue to become and evolve into our whole selves, I want to leave you with these words of encouragement. And it's titled, Keep Moving Ever Upward. Keep moving ever upward. You're given purpose to fulfill. Each day awaits your special mark with wisdom that you instill. Keep moving ever upward. You have so much life to live. Still growing, still becoming. Each new awakening, God's special gift. Keep moving ever upward, giving thanks along the way. Clothe yourself in joy and kindness, and seize the wonder of the day. So with that, I thank you very much. I look forward to talking about it.
Thank you for those inspiring words and for your impeccable sense of timing. I want to mention a few of our annual events, even though at this point of the season, some of them I'll have to speak of in the past tense. For instance, we held the Authors Among Us book fair, featuring some 20 authors, which I think was a record for us. That was back on July 12th. But please look for it again next year, July sometime. If you are a writer with a published book, please apply to participate. Our website is at chq.org/FCWC, and you can find information about all our events on that webpage. The annual writing contest is cat sizes for writers of all ages just closed. So I'm sorry if you missed that, if you did on Sunday. Once again, we'll repeat that next year. And once again, you can go through our webpage, www.org/FCWC. On August 16th at 2:30, we'll do award ceremony. That day, we will have the Hall of Philosophy. It'll also be available on Zoom if that illustrates. That's something you can still apply to participate in. It's the Robert Pinsky Favorite Home Project. The reading will be held on August 20th when selected Chicagoans get to read their favorite poem and briefly explain why it means so much to them. I believe the deadline for applying is August 15th, once again, on the webpage. A reminder that there'll be books for sale and time for at least a short Q&A after our reader. Our second reader is Carol Jennings, who grew up in East Aurora, New York. She attended the College of Worcester, graduated from NYU, and earned a JD. Simply one are particularly. So he asked the secretary, let's please give me the names of this man going.
and the 8 copies of the original poem.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? I'm gonna start with a couple from the first book. That's my first love in poetry was John Keats when I was a teenager. And then many years later, I visited Rome and was in the room where he died. And this poem came out of that. In Rome with John Keats. In the small room where you died, I stand at the end of a narrow bed, as perhaps you did on better days. Stare out the window at Bernini's boat, still sinking when the piazza is fine. And had you not been so weak, his marble boat, like the Elgin marbles, might have sparked another ode or sonnet on mortality. A new metaphor of the life slowly leaving you. In those last days, to which poem did you turn for comfort? I would guess the nightingale, your darkling singing to you, in full-throated summer ecstasy, out of the embalming dark, in high requiem for a coming February death. Or could it be the urn, with lovers on the brink, like you and Fanny, bliss always out of reach? Nothing is left of your time here, but Severine's death and the portrait. Handles of hair damp on your forehead, lids shut, candles throwing shadows on your face, still perfect at the end. Though they burned all you touched in a bonfire below, you linger here, listening for footsteps on the stairs, horses on the square, mandolin players on the Spanish steps, poem the blood rising in your throat. And the second one in this book is called Playing Debussy, which I did as a teenager and now I'm doing again. Playing Debussy. She spun notes for you in her wistful way, the girl with the flaxen hair. I was that girl in a younger self, playing you in the key of G flat, fingers always light as you desired. I have more years now than you at death, and find you less mystical than I did when I was her. I still love it when your major and minor thirds roll off my fingertips. I marvel at the dramas of your life, affairs with the Parisian lady, the wife who got herself lived, wars that roared through France, cancer that consumed you. These stories are not replayed in the soft refraction of your scores. You hated the word impressionist, yet blurred your tones as the pages were colors and lines. Though I have left behind the flaxen-haired girl, I have not given you up. The ephemeral light of your moon still splays across my piano keys, prevents me from sleeping. The floating chords of your sunken cathedral, the cathedral on mimic the rise and fall of tides. A stretch for small hands, stiff fingers. Yet I want to bring the illusion out of the water for you again. And the same pillow. The first one is called A Flickering Light, and it sort of deals with my reaction to light of the summer solstice uplifts and the elevates me. The winter solstice does the opposite. And we're putting yourself a flickering light. What does he need to? Why so much time before I grasped its place in my life? Before I understood the possibility to bend and stretch, fold it into poems, stories, save it for dark seasons, follow it north or south, depending upon month and hemisphere, or simply keep it in some mind pocket until needed to deflect the dark. As a child enthralled to midsummer month, enough to bicycle home at 9 o'clock, with no thought of the planet to come, as days shorten and insects grow frantic and shrill about sex and death. I thought I could use it all up, the euphoria, reserve nothing for later. Now I have mastered the art, or perhaps trick, parsing it out in lesser portions to make it last.
The way of flickering light can trick the eye to see it as a constant, and knowing this may be the antidote to everything.
The form and the spirit of
That. This is called Poem Beginning with a Line of Rainer Maria Rilke, which came out of a workshop exercise. And the line I chose was every angel is terrified. I don't fully understand why. I love wording. Every angel is terrifying until you reach a certain time when they begin to appear in half awake pre-dawn sleep. Especially in early summer, while cicadas vibrate a song stayed underground for 17 years. They remind you not only of loss, what you will do that day. Pick strawberries for breakfast. Sweep spent wings from the porch. Invite a spirit companion to share your strawberries and describe the possibility of another life, a before or after life, with a different tonality and absence of rhyme.
You have to trust them and they have to trust you. What you're offering is something that
Is called Moulin, which, as you probably know, Moulin is a hole in a glacier filled with glacial meltwaters. And this was inspired by a poem by Seamus Heaney, I think it was called Postscript, in which he invites the reader to visit the west coast of Ireland and let the wind and the waves work their magic out. And so I'm inviting the reader to visit a glacier. Take the time to walk back to the place I see. Just off the highway between Jasper and Banff, park the car to board a snow bus and deposit you on the ice field. Where you can guzzle glacial meltwater from the Moulin, waters the purity preceded your species. Pay attention, or you could tumble into a crevasse from which you would not emerge until the ice was melted. Kneel down, touch the glacial part with reverence, but know that you violated. Consider that it recedes and loses depth beneath your body, that it may disappear within the life of your child. Let the ice pierce a hole even as it melts. It's what I call clairvoyance. It's at least it starts out about my love-hate relationship with glasses that I wear. Provision. Clairvoyance. At age 6, glasses became part of my face, so I could see the elegance of numbers, one added to another with chalk. Then I came to hate them for their weight, interruption of a self-image, distance imposed between me and what I thought. Years later, I traded them for plastic circles that could drop in an eye with one finger. To look far down a New York street, discern the pale green of new leaves curling softly against gray limbs. Recognize spaces that approach. Read a lover's expression and feel a world close to me again. As in the early years, with new eyes. I also turned my sight inward on curves of fear and concentric circles of solitude. I don't mind a slight blur after standing at a canyon's edge to count rock strata that reveal the brevity of my time. To look across an unpolluted night sky proves the slight measure of my place in the west.
Now,
this was written after seeing Michelangelo's dying slave in Paris, which is simply a gorgeous statue. To Michelangelo's dying slave. No pain mars your marble face. Your pose almost erotic, left arm flung back behind your head, right hand fingering the spear slit in your chest, one knee bent. Your David-like face tilted slightly away from us, eyes shut. Your vision inward, release on your face as you guide your feet. Your body still radiates desire, like a new star. even as you enter that space beyond the silence, as if you hear a melody like the Liebestone, composed 300 years after your dying was cried. That one-time song when love and death meld before the end.
You don't have.
If you could speak, you would tell us nothing. If you ever played the piano, you probably played Beethoven's For Elise. And I tried to do some research on who Elise might have been. And it turns out nobody knows, and it's possible that it wasn't Elise, that the publisher misread his terrible handwriting. So I thought, since nothing is known, I could make her up. And this is Elise's note to Beethoven, for Beethoven from Elise. You ruined me for other men, you know. I have been loved by others, more handsome than you, with gentle touch, with pretty words. But each time I begin to fall, your teasing eighth notes that presage the melody force through me to intervene. It was a trifle for you, your A minor bagatelle, its little arcs and bridges, always coming back to that Winston lyric. A theme that never fully resolves, like my feelings feeling. Your publisher got my name wrong due to your terrible handwriting. Elise does not exist, though she will outlive me to taunt generations of piano students who will love or hate her for testing them, making fun of their imperfect playing, much as you did to me. I could never possess you, be. Yet because of that little piece, dashed off in an hour, we will stay forever later. What we both wanted.
Here, the problem.
This poem was kind of a mishmash of various things. Spring, playing Mendelssohn, particularly his songs without words, which I really love. My parents, my mother, my spouse. One more very short one. The held note. The held note. Storyteller of the long note. Count of the harmonic hour. Flutterer of the sustained. Singer of two voices in the right hand. Liberator of thumbs, play black holes. And fifth finger time half timber. Here a piano player in veiled clarity. Small hands with supple wrists, hands set in marble, composer for the short one. Let me play a nocturne for my own God. Let someone discover an unknown melody that was in your mind that you lay down. Let me find the second voice each time I read you. Let your held note be a candle on my way to sleep. Let us be lovers in a dream. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for taking on a whole host of talents and topics for music and mortality and love. Can you write about muffins or anything else? A few reminders about literary events and other literary events before we get to our final reader. Tomorrow at 12:30, a little later than usual, what is called the Summer on the Steps program. Will not be on the porch, but will be up in the ballroom. The title of the presentation is Teaching Hope, Art, Education, and the End of Poverty. This is a live multimedia conversation inspired by the documentary film Pursuing Life, the Bill Strickland story. Which has been playing at the cinema. I'm not sure that Wednesday on Buster Plaza, there's a activity that involves some discussion and some interaction about younger CMSB collection, done in 1776 by Laurie Hall Sanderson and Bonnie Sanders, an American story. On Friday at 12:15, Reverend Bush will have a community reading that will feature spotlight readers from the poetry and prose workshops being taught this week, and also the unveiling of the community poem. If you don't know, the community poem is a poem that the literary arts staff puts together with input from you. You can go to poetry.chp.org and include up to 30 lines. The staff will then decide which ones to use to stitch together an overall poem. The short version of the poem literally is to include the phrase "Good evening, Washington." And by Washington, you can either mean the man, the myth, or the city of DC. And what would you say upon good evening? There's more details at poetry.chp.org. A reminder that CLSC events, which traditionally were on Thursday at 3:30, aren't at that time anymore. They're Fridays at 2 in the Hall of Philosophy. So you get 2 for 1 this Friday. We got 2 authors. Lorraine Hollis Anderson, who I mentioned as the author of the Guy in 1776, and Adrian Ratika, the author of the collection of poems called The Lucid. And it's a wonderful collection. Our final reader today is Reverend Reggie Tuggle. For 37 years, he served as the senior pastor of Memorial Presbyterian Church in Roosevelt, New York. Reverend Tuggle led the church to record growth from 50 members to several thousand, while simultaneously holding regular business leadership positions. No wonder his leadership and church growth is recognized nationally.
Fact is,
After his retirement in 2011, he's held seemed like 3 separate interim pastor positions. So he continues to be in the hands of the firm like retirement and moon and like more work. Okay. He served also as a coach with the Presbyterian Foundation, specializing in coaching pastors. He is also the author of a memoir, which is today, A Journey Through Grace, an inspiring story dealing detailing his redemptive and faith-filled journey through poverty and loss. This book is available on Amazon on his website, reggie.com, up there on this table. With his record in organization building, fundraising, and people management, his leadership style has inspired people to excellent positive transformation and higher levels of productivity. For the sake of time, I'm just going to try to hit some highlights there. He's for marketing for Catholic College, overseeing all these initiatives, websites, and operation, public relations, and Massachusetts for the college. He also was a business leader. For example, director of public affairs for Newsday Long Island, which is a newspaper of Long Island's largest daily newspaper. There's a circulation of 500,000. Bush for that. The first president of the Urban League of Long Island. He holds a Master of Divinity from Union Theological Seminary and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Philosophy and Psychology from Bishop College. Additionally, he pursued a PhD at Yale University and focused on the implications of multinational corporate investments in third world countries. He's traveled and studied extensively in the Philippines, Ghana, the Middle East, Europe, parts of Asia, Africa. He's used that as part of his professional active commitment to service to the community. He is currently the chair of the board and co-founder of the board of directors of the Roosevelt Children's Academy and Charter School on Long Island, and a past member of the Justice Initiative in Charlotte. He has so many awards and recognitions that I'm not going to be. Let's have that applause for Reggie.
Thank you, Fred. Good afternoon, everyone. My book is A Journey Through Grace, which I hopefully get a chance to read more detail when you buy one. I always got into trouble when I tried to take matters into my own hands and force something to happen. I believe God moves us in quiet yet definitive ways. You can't always make blessings happen. Sometimes you have to be in the places where blessings flow naturally. It's not always what you know, but where you are. It's not the time and space you occupy at the moment. It's not what you know or whom you know, but who knows you. Life is about places and spaces. Being in the right place at the appropriate time to have the special conversation with that particular person. I call it serendipity. You can't always plan for it, but you can always be alert to watch for it. And when you hear the message or get the feeling, you have to act on it or lose it.
In the attending station, both of us, we've been 77 days.
Beginning with my birth to a wise teenage unwed mother, to going to college with very little money and struggles I had during that time, to my years of international travel and then pursuit of a PhD at Yale University, my life moved forward. And I entered into a new phase of my life. I served as pastor for 38 years to a church that began when I got there at 40 members, and we grew to over 1,000 members. This led to successfully conducting 2 capital campaigns to build 2 buildings, and having the privilege of working in some prestigious secular work in higher education, corporate America, and in the political arenas. Doing all the above is in itself worthy of telling the story of what God has done in my life. But to have been blessed to have done all these things while at the same time living through severe hardships and as well as moments to make my story literally unbelievable. I have been blessed time and again as I grew up in poverty, dealt with my brother's premature death, to be married to an exceptional woman who bore 2 intellectually gifted daughters. Sorrows have been a vital part of my life as I experienced the death of my wife. But then God has blessed me with a new wife, a new life partner, by God's grace, and moved to Charlotte some years ago to retire, but I flunked retirement on 3 different occasions. This book, on the surface, may appear to be about accomplishments and unusual experiences. However, in fact, it is a sincere attempt to put in writing the tangible presence of God's hand upon my life. It's about my escape from misfortune and the adversary's relentless traps to destroy my purpose and my gifts. My miraculous life started out as a series of unrelated random events and conversations with people over the years. Still, looking retrospectively over the course of my life, I can see God's hand from the beginning until now. The mystery isn't that I am guided and protected, but my portion of blessings exceeded that of most others. My cups, as so to speak, run over. First and foremost, I am a servant of God. The single most valuable advice I learned over the years when facing difficulties is nothing stays the same forever. Every person on the planet experiences bad times and hard times. The key is to face what's facing you head on, without lamenting the fact that it's you who is having these experiences. It's never about why me, It's about knowing that God has the situation in control. We must do what the situation requires without becoming bitter or cynical. Joy must be the order of the day. Burdens and pain can blind us if we are not careful. Even when joy may not be obvious every day, we have to remember that we can't let our burdens blind us to the reality that God is holding us fast. Scripture has other words for this kind of joy. It's called trust in God, as well as trust in your own abilities and resources, no matter how meager they seem. God manifests his love for us best in times of adversity, when we don't see any way to move forward. When our back is against the wall and there's no door open, we will see that we do have resources that can be applied to the moment if we keep moving forward. I've learned when we don't give up or give in, God continues to move us forward to higher and greater blessings. Why? So relax and let God do his work. Life is hard work, and it is unpredictable at best. This isn't new, and certainly it isn't a secret, but it is something many of us fail to apply. Herein lies the key to life, with all its uncertainties. When we give up too soon, we miss the blessing that God has most for us. One day at a time, that's all the amount of grace God gives us, just enough for one day. And before we realize it, the day becomes a long line of days, which become months, and then years, and then a whole lot. So, in my memoir, it's about, and I've had many great jobs. But the one constant job is, of course, being a pastor. That's been my longest job. But I've had other jobs. But it began with me living in an attic. I was born to an unwed mother back in, teenage mother back in 1947, who had just graduated from high school. And for the first 9 years, we lived in an attic in a home in Denver, Colorado. It was a small space, just 2 rooms and a bathroom consisting of a toilet and a sink. No bathtub. In one room, we had a small couch and a small black and white television. Our kitchen consisted of only a hot plate next to an old Ringer washing machine in the basement. We had no refrigerator, and our sink doubled as a place where we washed our clothes. Yet my mother was a genius in preparing meals. She could use the hot plate to make fried chicken, pan-fried cornbread, and greens, and all kinds of beans. We had white beans, navy beans, pinto beans, black-eyed peas, butter beans, kidney beans, green beans, pork beans, and more. We had cornbread just about every meal, and I loved it. These kinds of foods don't require refrigeration, because we didn't have refrigerators. They could stay out for a day or two without getting spoiled. Sometimes we just had hot dogs and beans. But on Saturdays, Saturday we had eggs and sausages and pancakes. Since a very early age, I had started making my own breakfast. My mother would sometimes encourage me to live life in such a way, and she would say to me, but in a very joking way, she would say, "Son, life doesn't owe you anything." She'd tell me, whatever you get in life, you have to get it. Don't expect anyone is going to give you anything. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. And I remember looking at some old pictures of myself when I was in my late 30s. I came across pictures of myself as a child. I was dressed in tattered clothing and worn out sneakers. And I said to myself when I was 30 years old, I was poor. But all my friends were also dressed similarly. But in our home, we always had enough. We had enough joy, enough love, enough laughter, enough friends, enough peace, and enough time to say to each other, I love you. Well, the story is about 19 different vignettes in my life. I'll tell you two very quickly. How much time do I have, Fred? 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I can do this. The first is, when I was 10, my mother married a man, and it's in the book. A good guy at first, but found out he drank. And when he drank, he became a mean drunk and become very violent and abusive. And it was just a horrible time of my childhood years. And he was not very affectionate. I never got a gift from my dad, really dad, stepdad, on a birthday or a Christmas. This is from dad. I never went to a ball game, didn't go fishing, didn't do those things with my stepfather. When he wasn't drinking, he was a pretty decent guy. But when he drank, he was miserable. When I was in seminary, my third year in seminary, my mother was beaten up quite severely by him, put in the hospital, busted the ribs and stuff, messed up her face, and a lot of other things. And I was going to leave seminary to fly out to Denver from New York, and I plotted a way to kill him. Literally, I was so filled with anger and bitterness, he had to go. Well, I didn't do that, obviously. My mother could talk me out of it, so I didn't go see her while she was in the hospital. Later on, my mother contracted cancer, and she was given 6 months to live. She got 6 years, actually. And later on, he got cancer, and he later predeceased her. But before dying, I was out visiting her and him, and he had lost a lot of weight. He's sitting on the couch in our living room, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he had a strange look on his face, because he lost so much weight. His eyes were bigger than normal, and he was sitting on the couch, very weak. And he said to me, "Do you love me?" And I was taken aback by the question. Did I hear that right? Do you love me? He says. He says, I'm sorry for what I did to you and your mama. I want to know if you love me. And I said, yes, I do love you. I do love you. And it was one of those, almost, it was a out of the wild experience. I went, do you love me? I never saw very clearly. Well, that night he went into crisis, went to the hospital. I had to go back to New York the next day, go back to my church. He died 2 days after that. I did his eulogy. The other vignette is, I looked for my dad for 40 years, my biological father for 40 years, beginning at age 18. I found him when I was 58 years old with the aid of a private investigator from Freeport, New York. And that story is in here, a very profound story. But it was one of those times when I went up to Detroit to see him for the first time. We give each other a big hug. And as I'm hugging him, my wife, Evette, and I, and 2 of our daughters went out to Detroit. On the side of the house with a big sign, 20 feet high, 15 feet wide, saying, "Welcome Reggie and family with love." And all the neighbors were there with Congressman John Conyers came, the mayor sent the proclamation, and I would get a knock on the shoulder and said, "Hi, I'm Pat, your sister." Another knock came, "I'm your nephew, Eric." And this went on all afternoon, meeting all my relatives I never knew that I had. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you, Reggie, for that story. And that's we can go move now. Just we might have time to go for 2 questions if anyone has a question for any of our authors. Any questions out there? No. Oh, we would have one, if you could speak up, you're competing with the Hall of Philosophy.
Never mind. I like that. Now, Reggie, one more for you, is these loans are now. We have almost they were insulated for all congregation. And now you see the gas lines even in my area. One is totally separated. One idea. Local Russia. Out and we're now realize that there's much connection. What would you say?
You summarize the question.
The question is, if I could give one, he's part of an aging congregation in Texas. I think I'm hearing correctly. If I can give you one idea as to how to revitalize the congregation. Listen well and develop ministries that speak to their current needs. Develop ministries that speak to their needs where they are in their lives. And for us, I'm serving a church now in Charlotte, similar demographic, elder congregation. And I've developed two things. One is a very energetic Bible study, which is wonderful. And that's expanding. And we have an expanded prayer circle in the church that's growing like crazy. And they get together and talk about their needs, personal, sometimes the needs is financial, sometimes it's health, sometimes they live alone. How do you deal with loneliness? And how do you deal with ill health issues? So develop ministries that speak to their needs.
Oh, thank you. Just a couple closing announcements. One, I want to promote our sister art, the Chicago Theater Company. They have a theater chat on Thursday at 12:15 in Smith Woods about the forthcoming production of August Wilson's Now I Learned What I Learned, a one-man show which I believe opens on Saturday. On Thursday, this kind of almost snuck by me, at 10 o'clock in the new Brooklyn Theater Center, they'll have a performance of For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. It's awesome. So, do that if you can. Please join us next week for the Authors Hour. We'll have Moxie Mother Gardner with her novel Black Ice, Brenda Haas with her novel Finding Sutton's Choice, and Estelle with her collection of short fiction called Loving and Evil. Please consider joining the Friends of the Copyrighted Center to help sponsor all the events that have been mentioned. We've had rather erratic Wi-Fi, but we're going to do our best to post a video, perhaps in segments, on YouTube. And you can see videos of all these author hours since 2020. They all went virtual because of the pandemic. So thank you. Hope to see you at some other events. Take care. Bye.
You guys have cards. You have cards. Because I don't see my cards. I'm sorry. Okay. I used to bring money to buy a book.